Okay, so for review today, I have Atelier Firis The Alchemist and the Mysterious Journey. And oh man, yeah, let's get started on this one. So to give you a summary of this game, you start off as a little girl living in a sealed mining town, which never really sees any visitors, and you dream of going to the outside. But eventually, one day, you do see a visitor, and that visitor happens to be Sophie, the alchemist from our last game. Sophie talks to your main character, and we find out that the main character of Atelier Firis herself, also has the talent to become an alchemist. So Sophie and her teacher Blokta, help Firis to learn how to use alchemy, and eventually train her to use alchemy so that Firis can make it on her own in the outside world. So despite common sense and the well-being of her family and friends, she goes off on her journey into the outside world. Okay, so before I start, I want to mention that I am actually a huge fan of this game series. I started off with Atelier Chalet, and I love that game. It's my favorite one out of the series. And then I even played the Atelier Sophie whenever that came out, and I liked that game a lot. Not as much as Chalet, but I did enjoy it quite a bit, and I was super excited whenever I found out that Atelier Firis was coming out. So with that, I'll go ahead and continue on with the pros. For the pros of this game, just like in the previous games, you're able to actually select music from previous games and change that out with the music that's going on, which is nice because the music, sucks in this game. So, so as a pro, you get to listen to older music that you do care about. Another, huge pro that I was significantly impressed with actually is that, just like in previous games, you can kind of go to a menu and teleport around to places. But the teleporting in this is just seamless. You're instantly there. There's no loading screen or anything, which was just very impressive. And another pro I would like to mention is that you start out with a portable Atelier. In the previous games, you kind of you had the Atelier back at home, so you'd have to go there constantly, and then at some point in the game, you would get a portable Atelier. Usually, it'd be you're on a ship. But sadly, that's going to be all for our pros, and now we move on to our huge list of cons. Okay, one really big con in this game is that it's open world, which, doesn't sound like it would be a con. I mean, we all want open world games, right? We like being able to, travel around and do whatever we want, but for so many reasons, just the open world system does not work in this game. And it's, as far as I can tell, it's the first one to really be open world like this. First off, it's barely open world. There's all kinds of invisible stuff within your way, and there's mountains surrounding everything. So really, it's just significantly bigger, small maps with lots of items all over the place. And that kind of brings me over to the other reason why this is a con. You have a limited amount of baggage. Like, you can only carry so many things before you have to go back to your Atelier. So far too often, you're not going to be able to gather as much as you want to. And even though I mentioned that you do have a portable Atelier, you can only activate your Atelier at certain spots, which are, significantly limited if you're not inside of a town. Another just horrendous con of this game is the English voice actors. Like, Firis herself just sounds like the chick from Kung Pao going wee 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 wee. Wee wee wee. Like, it's such an embarrassment. I know she's supposed to be 15 years old, but surely they could have even gotten a 15-year-old voice actor and it would have sounded better than this. Her sister is really the same way. Like, I thought at first whenever I'd heard her voice that, it was okay, but no, just hearing her talk later on in the game, it's just as garbage. I quickly changed to the Japanese voice actors, which was also sad because I enjoyed Sophie and Plakta's English voice actors more than I enjoyed their Japanese voice actors. But still, I had to go with the, Japanese voice actors because just listening to the main characters speak made me literally just angry throughout the day having to listen to that voice. It was brutal. Another big con for this game is the time cycling. I mean, everyone loves, day and night cycling, add some realism to the game. However, in this game, just picking a flower up off the field takes like an hour or 3. And even other simple little things take way too much time. Like, in order to walk from one side of town to the other, it can take 2 to 3 days. In a game where you have a day timer, that's bullshit. It seems like the game itself is literally against you completing the game. And overall, between that and the open world system preventing you from being able to collect everything, it really hinders what makes these games so fun, going out and collecting materials and, crafting with them. Because that's another thing, crafting can take several days to craft one single item. I mean, I somewhat understand why they have the whole, limited amount of days, because it makes sense within its story, even though that doesn't even really make sense in itself. But if you're going to do it like that, at least don't make it to where everything takes so much freaking time. Another con I have to mention is the graphics within the game. I feel like every other Atelier game had better graphics than this. Well, I mean, maybe not every other one. The 2 I played, including the one on the PS3, had better graphics than this one. And it says right on the box, PS4 Pro Enhanced. Well, I'm playing it on my PS4 Pro, and it looks like shit in comparison to Atelier Sophie. I mean, part of that might be because of its really fast day and night changing cycle. Like, shadows just fly all over the fucking place because it's changing from daytime to nighttime in a matter of seconds. But also, the lights and shadows on stuff just at any given point just can go berserk. Like, there'll be times where, you see your character and it's like zooming in on the character as she's speaking or something, and then just in the background, shadows are blinking out and trying to figure out what the hell they need to do. Another big bad thing this game has going for it is that most of the time the story just makes absolutely no sense. Most of the time it's because it's contradicting itself immediately after stating something. I'll kind of get in a little bit more about why the story doesn't make sense whenever I start talking about the characters in the game, but some of those immediate contradictions are like whenever you finally get out of the mining town and you're talking to Sophie, she decides she needs to leave you so that you're not so dependent on her, so that you're not relying on her, and you grow as an alchemist. However, immediately after saying this, your character says she doesn't want to rely on Sophie too much, and Sophie says, "No, it's okay to rely on me. I'm your teacher." Another example of this is 2 characters decide to work together immediately by leaving each other and going their separate ways. I'm not sure if this is just really fucking horrible translation, but, considering the rest of the game, I slightly doubt it. Another horrible thing within this game, like so many other horrible things, is the inns. You can go to inns, and in there you can rest. I mean, you can rest in your bed for free, but if you rest in an inn, it costs money. So, what's the point of doing an inn? Well, they explain to you that, at the inn, you can just rest there for a little amount of money, or for a larger sum of money, you can rest there in something called a suite, and it'll trigger certain events. So I decided, oh hey, cool, I can have more events going on in this game. So I paid for the suite, which is 360 in-game money, which is actually, not like a huge sum of money, but, more than you really want to spend on something like that. And the cutscene I got was one of the main characters standing in the middle of a field, surrounded by sheep. He asks the sheep to move, but they don't move, so he decides to sleep there. End cutscene. Yeah, paid money for that piece of shit. And you can be guaranteed I never did that again. Alright, so one of the last things I really want to talk about and nail home on this in this game's coffin is the characters. The characters were just such garbage, which is sad because the characters usually make this series. And you do see some previous characters like Sophie and Plachta, which are okay. And even, like a huge staple character like Logi even actually eventually appears in this game. Although Logi himself should not be in the game. He's just in there pretty much for fan service, so you can see a character, you recognize. And then Sophie and Plachta, they have their purpose within the game that's explained. And, it's cool. And, they help the character get on her way. But you just can't give a shit about the character. Mostly because the character is a selfish piece of shit. Whenever our story starts out, the character within the mining place, it can find ores easily because she can speak to the ores. That's how you kind of figure out that she's an alchemist, as she has that ability. So she helps this mining colony greatly. And her sister, kind of the other main character, the older sister, is a hunter. So she goes outside and hunts animals. Now, their family, who apparently, at some point in time, decided only one child should die, tells Firis that she can't go outside because if she goes outside, she will be murdered. Murdered by the bunnies.
Jesus Christ! I warned you!
Those evil, evil little bunnies outside. So that's kind of the start of our story and why Firis is stuck to, live forever in this mining colony where she's been born and she's never been allowed outside. But that's her dream, is to go outside and have adventures, basically. Well, after Sophie gets to the town and, kind of shows Firis that, hey, you are an alchemist, Firis decides, okay, then I'll increase my alchemy skills and I'll be able to go outside. Surely I can convince my parents I should go outside then, because I won't die if I have alchemy. I'll be strong enough. So she tells that to her parents and, tries to learn alchemy from Sophie, but her parents say, no, you will die if you go outside. Which was just unnecessary drama. I mean, whenever they're dragging this out, I expected, some kind of weird anime cliche to come about. Like, their parents tell Firis that if she uses her alchemy power, she'd die, or something would happen, something horrible. A reason for her parents to be this fucking stupid. But no point ever comes across. None. Eventually, Firis, learns alchemy through Sophie by running away from her parents and living in Sophie's atelier. And the town decides to let her outside. Even though it literally means the doom of the town because they can't find ores by themselves, apparently. And they even give her older sister as an overseer to travel with her. So not only can they not mine anymore, but they don't have a impressive hunter that's going to get them any kind of trade or food either. So literally as soon as Firis leaves, this town is just fucked. Yeah, that's right. She pretty much dooms her town, and she's the hero. But, she wanted to go outside, so she needs to go outside. She's the main character. Also, she just doesn't even care that any of this is happening to her town. Literally no empathy for these people that she's grown her entire life with whatsoever. In the storyline, she originally isn't even going to tell her parents that she's leaving town forever, but eventually she decides she needs to, and she goes to their place and tells them she's leaving. And then literally the only dialogue they have with her is, take care. Yeah, that's right. That's our main character. Now for other characters, a lot of other kind of pseudo-main characters just kind of walk themselves into your atelier for no good reason at all. Just, hey, there's a house in the middle of nowhere. Let's go inside. And they find out you're an alchemist, so they make you do work for them. Because I guess that's endearing character development. I mean, the only characters I really saw that almost made sense and that I kind of liked their story was, eventually you come across this girl who just gets lost in the woods. And she kind of acts like you're the one lost. So she joins your party to help you find your way out. But really she's just joining for the sake of getting out herself. But then she even just sticks around with your team anyway, so that's a little weird. And there's a mercenary who you can pay, 5,000 money, which is a stupid amount. so that he'll follow you for the rest of your life. And those were kind of the good character development stories. Even your big sister, the expert hunter who's traveling with you, her character development is she thinks that Firis is cute. And it's said that the worst character in the entire storyline is your main character, just because she's a selfish brat. Literally, she doesn't really, truly help anyone unless it's the benefit of herself. So it's hard to relate with this character or to care if she lives or dies. And also, another thing about that, mentioning that her parents were telling her the entire time that if she goes outside, she will die. Whenever you're outside, there's merchants, there's farmers, there's children outside that are just standing in the middle of monsters. And I mean, they never get attacked, so, perhaps their parents were onto something, because it seems like, the only thing the monsters exist for is to try and kill Firis. Anyways, as you can tell, this game was just a nightmare for me, especially because, the first two I'd played were so good. Like I said, Shelly's definitely my favorite one. But Atelier Sophie wasn't bad. Whenever I try to look up stuff like the English voice actors to try and figure out who the hell was doing such a horrible job at this, there's nothing about it. Like, I can't find it on the Wikia page. Even the video game only lists the Japanese voice actors, so they don't even want you to know. I just, can't figure out why this game ended up so bad. I did find out that Shelly and Sophie were directed by had the same director. Well, this game had a new director, so maybe the video game director just was garbage, and that's why this ended up being garbage. But still, why would you let this happen? This was such a good series so far. And then this garbage came out. I mean, I'm probably still going to get excited when the next game comes out, and probably purchase that too, but if it's even half as bad as this one, I'm probably going to be done with the series. So, in respects, my rating for this game is definitely a 2 out of 10. I would not suggest ever buying this game. If you want to play an Atelier game, play one of the previous ones. Seriously, just buy Atelier Shelly. That was my favorite one, and it was even on the PS3. But if you don't have PS3 and you just got the PS4, I think the games are also available for PC. Not entirely sure, but like I said, Atelier Sophie was a pretty good game too. It just wasn't my favorite. But yeah, don't buy this. Please don't buy this. Don't support this. Let this stop, and then get back to the good old Atelier games. Anyways, feel free to comment. Don't forget to like and subscribe. That's what makes the YouTubes go around. And most importantly, don't forget to take care of yourselves.